It's Calgary's podcast on the Canada's Podcast Network.
Today's guest is Terry Sydoryk, who is CEO of Karadzic. I got it right, didn't I? Thanks for joining us today, Terry, and being here for our listeners. Tell me, first of all, a little bit about the company, its history, and what it does.
Sure, you bet. Karadzic was formally founded in 2009. We're a software platform that allows communities to come together that have obviously a common interest. So whether that be brand focused, employee focused, or other, it's a situation where online individuals can come together, participate in various programming, various activities, and subsequently learn and engage with each other.
Mm-hmm. How did you get involved?
In probably about, was it 2013, the company had reached a stage where they had attracted some external funding from Yaletown Partners, and I have an association with Yaletown and was introduced to the opportunity, and the founder, Shelley Kuipers, and got involved with the organization as it kind of took its next step in terms of formalization and more commercial focus.
Okay, what has been the business like these days for you, considering what's happening out there in the Calgary economy?
As an early stage organization, we've certainly had our challenges. We aren't directly affected by the economy here in Calgary. Most of our customers are outside of the region. In fact, we provide the community software to a global audience. But at the same time, when we're looking to build an organization, the access to capital, the access to people, the current economic challenges here in Calgary have presented both challenges but also opportunities. So I would say it really depends on what attributes you're looking for as to what impact we've had.
What's been new with the company recently?
We've been forced into really focusing in terms of both our business model and our target audience. As mentioned before, one of the things that we provide is an ability for a brand to basically bring their brand fans into an online platform to basically interact with each other, and as a result learn and understand what's important to that brand base. And so things that have challenged us is just getting the individuals to commit to moving to that kind of platform support, how it fits in terms of their internal budgeting, where it fits relative to market research versus social. So just understanding as the enterprise evolves, whereabouts in the organization it's appropriate to land.
What's your vision for the company as you go forward?
We're seeing a lot of interest. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a number of things that are contributing to, I think, a change in the environment. Number one is technology. Technology is having such a big impact across the board. And not only with the organization or the enterprise, but also with the end users. In today's world, smartphones allow individuals to interact directly inside of social environments, inside of groups, and ultimately they're looking for means of which to interact with the brand. So the brands that are understanding that there's an opportunity actually to, in essence, give social a purpose are engaging with these brand fans and subsequently getting them involved and helping them understand, where the product should go, where the business model should go. At the same time, the individuals are looking for the organizations that are paying attention to that and wanting the individuals, wanting the brands to align with them. So it's a bit of a combination of things. So the environment has changed substantially.
When you look at doing business in Calgary, what are the benefits, I guess, of being a business in Calgary these days?
First of all, that's a sort of a loaded question. There are definitely benefits. I mean, obviously, the city offers a lot of benefits, and ultimately a balanced situation when trying to attract individuals into an organization. So I'll say things that are, in essence, outside of the work environment. At the same time, I mean, some of the challenge that we've seen economically, as well as the different things that have happened recently relative to promoting investments into technologies has not helped us at all, or anybody in the technology space for that matter. So it's a bit of a two-edged sword. So there's benefits in terms of lifestyle, great people, a very, very collaborative community. But on the other side, there are other elements in terms of building a business that are important, like access to capital. In a situation where the current environment here is looking for diversification, trying to get money out of energy and into technology. Government stepped in and basically taken away a lot of programs that were helping to initiate that process. I mean, it was early days, but at the same time, we definitely were seeing a shift where people were willing to invest because there were credits available. And so just started the process of starting to distribute that capital in a different way. So that's unfortunately gone away, or at least there's some uncertainty right now that we'll have to wait and see over the long term how that'll impact us.
What would you say the biggest challenge is that you've faced as a company in the last few years?
There's been a couple. We provide a solution globally. So obviously for us, it's first and foremost capital, growth capital in this sense. I mean, we've got what I view as a fantastic product. We've got some great customers. So the challenge, the next phase of the business and the challenge becomes ensuring that we have a global presence. And so reaching outside, which ultimately to do that in a fashion that is far reaching as well as at a speed that is of interest requires an element of capital. And that's been tough for us to come across. At the same time, the growth situation for us hasn't been what we would have liked. And perhaps that's part of the contribution to that lack of interest at this stage. So we're very optimistic about what 2020 is going to bring. We're seeing a lot of shift with respect to brands looking for that next evolution. One of the things that we hang on to here is that social has been so popular, but in essence, social is no different than radio, TV, and print was. It's a broadcast medium. Our product provides purpose and means by which you can interact with the community. And so we view it as giving social ultimately a purpose. So taking the people that are self-identifying and saying, I like my Facebook page, or I like the brand through this Facebook page, I follow you on Twitter or Instagram. We're saying take those individuals, bring them into a community that you control, provide them with content, engage with them, give them a platform of which they can contribute to the future of your organization. And at the same time, reap some of the understanding of what is important to them. Let them help you understand what are the things that you should be focused on as far as next generation product and direction of the organization.
Okay, as an entrepreneur and as a business person, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Persistence. At the end of the day, I think one of the things I believe is that we as or I could say, if you haven't gone through the experience of an early stage organization and your assessment comes through media, I think the media paints a picture that things happen very quickly. And I'm not saying that they don't in general, but that's not the norm. The norm is it takes persistence. It takes a number of years. And the old adage was twice as long and twice as much money. And I think that remains in place today. So persistence, sticking with it, basically driving the vision, believing in what you're doing, and then just continue to kind of march forward.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some more personal types of questions. Sure. Everybody's got a bucket list these days. What's on top of yours?
Completely outside of business. I look for things that just allow me to kind of distract myself from the day to day. One of the things as an entrepreneur, as an early stage organization, the list of things to do never ends, and it's long. Mm-hmm. And so the opportunity to completely step away, I think, provides a mental recharge. And for me, I've actually fallen with interest into roasting coffee, and so I'm aspiring now to become a better roaster and work with the various elements of the roast profile to kind of extract the various flavors that you can get out of coffee. So I'm fascinated by that right now. I'm not very good at it, but I'm.
So when you do stuff like that, do you find that you get ideas about your business when you're away from it in other pursuits and passions?
Yeah. I think the situation is more that you're just putting your mind at ease, and so subconsciously you're processing things that kind of come forward. So whether it's roasting coffee, or it's sitting and reading a decent book, or just literally down by the river on a park bench and staring into the abyss kind of thing, and next thing you know, something pops into your mind because my world and most entrepreneurs' world for the last 15, 20 years has just been constantly processing what's next. And as a result, I think you're always turned on, which can be it can be mentally exhausting, and therefore the opportunity to distract by removing yourself out of the day-to-day just provides a bit of an energy recharge. So it's very beneficial.
You mentioned books. Do you read books?
I do. I try to. I always say I would love to read more, but I do try to at least read a number of books, and especially if I step away from the business. So anytime I go on vacation, I typically like to read books, both related and unrelated, for the same reasons I just expressed, an opportunity to kind of mentally kind of put myself in a different place.
What kind of books do you read?
I've got a strong sports background, so I'm always looking at books that are both business oriented from sports as well as sort of mental toughness. I actively coach a 15-year-old minor midget team here in Calgary, and so the mental side of the game is something that's always been of interest. And so things like that I find fascinating. Autobiographies, I love to understand and see the challenges that others have gone through. Whether it's in the rock world, whether it's in the sports world, business world, etc. I've read a number of those that I find interesting. I'm currently reading a book called Sailing to the Edge of Time with John Kretschmer. And it's, again, just totally unrelated, but an individual that basically circumnavigated some of the challenges he had as an individual out on the ocean in his 30-plus foot boat. So it's, again, those are the types of things I find interesting.
Cool. So you mentioned your sports background. This is one thing. I also have a sports background. My first 12 years of my journalism career was writing sports. But what I find these days, I run into a lot of people in the community here in Calgary that have a sports background, business people. What do you think sports gives people as a foundation for business success?
Oh, yeah, it's a great question. Number of things. And again, depending on the individual, I'll speak from my perspective. Number one, everyone gets the idea of team. In a business world, you're talking to me today, but realistically and understandably behind me are a complete team of individuals that contribute to the day-to-day progress of the organization ongoing. So that's number one. So being able to work with individuals. Same thing with the team as far as working together is the understanding of roles and responsibilities. So no matter whether it's hockey, football, soccer, lacrosse, etc., everyone is identified as having a responsibility and somewhat held accountable for that with respect to the team, understanding that if you don't deliver as an individual, then the team as a whole can't be necessarily successful. That's for sure. Second thing is, or another element would be leadership. I think depending on what and where you were involved in sports, you can come out of it with a strong aspect of leadership. So, whether leadership comes in a direct responsibility by wearing, say, a letter or becoming captain of a team, or you're simply an individual that steps up at a certain time in a game and recognizes that leadership role because you've brought an aspect to the game or a specific timeline that's been important to the success of the organization. So to me, those are unheralded. Last thing I'll say is understanding the role of other individuals. And, as an athlete, you have a coach, and therefore the importance of that coach. Well, in business, I think, coaching is something that continues to grow within business. And so having a coach with respect to your role is always important as well.
One of the other things I've often heard from people is failure, learning from failure and dealing with failure.
Yeah. Great comment. And one of the things that you remind me of is, when I coach my guys, the first thing I do at the beginning of the year is tell them my expectation is that you will fail, because if you're not failing, you're not pushing that boundary. If you're always in your comfort zone, then the situation is such that you're not going to develop. And so, my initial kind of talk with the guys is I'm telling you up front, I will fail. I will make mistakes, as will the other coaches. And so our expectations will be you will as well. And so giving them a safe environment, which they understand failure is part of development and part of basically making sure that we progress as a group throughout the year.
Okay, great. If you had one word to describe yourself, what would it be and why?
I would say grinder, and I might add silent in the front of that, because I'm a relatively quiet individual. I'm an introvert, proudly, which brings with it some other things. But I would say a grinder. Given a task and given a specific challenge, I do what it takes to get to the end. So sometimes I find that in today's world, the timeline people work within for expectations of, quote, success, however that's defined, is shorter than what's realistic. And so persistence and sticking with it over the long haul is something that I value and believe in, and as such, I think defines grinder as a definition, as a word. So it's something that I look to do on a daily basis.
Okay, so when in the sports world, there's a lot of routine involved, right? And I'm wondering, in terms of what you do for work and business and your life, do you have a routine that you follow every day?
That was it's an interesting question. I would say there is an element of routine for sure, but within that, there's a lot of variability. So certainly from an individual perspective, I'm usually up at the same time. 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm up. I've got a dog. I'll walk the dog. That gives me time for that sort of thinking as well, and to sort of look at what's ahead of my day. So I certainly value that 30, 40 minutes of walking to kind of let my mind wander and perhaps come up with some of those ideas we talked about earlier.
Uh-huh.
Into work, and then usually things start off with as one would expect, a review of the emails, number of meetings during the day. Those can vary substantially, and then throughout the day, what have you, relative to a given week. At the end of my workday, I'm doing one of two things. I'm trying to get myself a workout in for myself, or else I'm actually heading to the rink to coach the hockey team. So it's pretty much that in terms of a daily basis, and most weeks kind of follow the same thing. So certain days I'm coaching, other days I'm working out, but in between, sort of that 7:30 to 6 o'clock works day. It's pretty standard in the sense that it's the emails, the meetings, client discussions, etc. So that's about as much as standardization, but at the same time variability within that.
All right, I'm going to present you a situation and just want to see how you respond to it, okay? So imagine there's a small, beautiful tropical island in the middle of the ocean with only one phone booth and no internet, no other technology around. We're going to drop you off there, and at any time you can use the phone booth to call us, and we'll come pick you up and take you home. Couple of questions. First of all, how long do you think you would last before you made that phone call? And second, what do you think you'd be doing on that island by yourself?
Wow. That would be going sort of to an extreme from what typically happens, simply no internet and access. I would think I would like to believe I would be able to last a number of weeks. And I think what I would imagine it, the first few days could be tough because it would break what is traditionally part of my day, which is online access, whether it be to catch up on the news, sports, business related emails, etc. So something there would be missing. I think that would need to be changed. But I think after that, I would probably settle in fairly well for that couple of weeks. And I say a couple of weeks because I would imagine that after that, I'd exhaust both the interest of what's going on the island, again, not knowing exactly how big it is, but there's probably something to explore for a period of time. Sensing out some of the things I traditionally wouldn't have on a day-to-day basis would probably fill some of that time gap. Ability to just kind of unpack things, go into a state of, I'll call it kind of like meditation, the ability to just kind of inwardly seek some of the things that you wrestle with on a daily basis, just spend some time thinking through that. But I would imagine that, so the 2 to 3 weeks, it might be a point where I'd want to check out. I don't know. I would love the opportunity to see how long that would take, actually. I think it'd be fascinating.
Be a good challenge for people, I think.
Yes. I think, one of the things I find today is that, when we do get the opportunity to step away, through vacation, it typically takes, and that's why I respond the way it takes, a couple days to get out of that routine of constantly looking, to see what emails come in or what have you. And at the same time, I find myself, critically evaluating, saying, wow, this is just not good, but it's reality. So I need to check out for sure.
Yeah. Okay, then. So Terry, is there anything you'd like to add before we leave today?
I think I would kind of go back to a few things sort of on the topic of entrepreneurship and kind of express that, it's a tough place to be. There's our huge challenges. And if it was easy, arguably everybody would be doing it. And so one of the things that, as I interface with a lot of entrepreneurs, that I kind of echo is that, the view that we get from the media, albeit it exists, but it's not the norm. And so these quick rises, lots of capital, I think that's ideally what people would search for. So the Silicon Valley model, but it's not the norm. And so appreciating that things may take longer than what you would expect, as well as require, twice the time, twice the money, as I said before. At the same time, I think people, the team part of it is so critical. I mean, it's not something you do on your own. You start off perhaps as an individual or a couple of co-founders. You start to build a team, but the importance of having a group of individuals that can support you, work with you, align with you, it's heavy lifting, and you need that kind of team to basically have success over the long run. So investing in your people, investing in choosing your people is by far the number one priority, and arguably something that, as we're in that fast-paced growth mode, we don't spend enough time looking at. So that's something that I would definitely echo out there as I talk to individuals or to the audience here today.
Okay, thanks, Terry, for joining us today on Calgary's podcast.
Perfect. Thanks very much.